15-minute video, but the window was behind me, and maybe the lighting's a little better here, facing the window. Also forgot to turn the overheads off. So, anyway, I'm going to try this again. I am retired, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about today. This is my first video, so I'm going to talk about how hard it is to get and keep a job after 50, especially 55. I am now 60. I'm a full year and a half away from getting Social Security. Not that it matters, because it won't be that much, but it'll be enough to pay a few basic things. It won't be enough to live on. That's why I'm doing this. Get the word out, maybe get some input back. I'm not really sure what to do at this point. I'm better off than a lot of people. I do have some retirement account. I do have some money. I don't have as much as I did because I haven't really worked much in the last couple of years, at least. And when I do have a job, it doesn't really pay much. I've been a bookkeeper for the last 20 years off and on. Ironically, they don't pay bookkeepers a whole lot. Better than, say, working at fast food or something, or a convenience store, definitely, but not enough to really, you can live a basic life on a bookkeeper salary alone. But you can't do much extra. So anyway, here I am, 60 years old, 60 and a half actually, about to be. So I'm a year and a half away from Social Security, even getting early withdrawal. And I've done the math on that. I'll talk about that maybe in another video, about why I think that's a good way to go. Some of you may disagree. I don't know how long I'm going to live, though, and I'd rather get some money now. So anyway, I had worked for a company from 2007 until 2015. And over the years there, had taken on more and more responsibilities. I was the bookkeeper. Then I was the office manager, which I kind of was anyway. I had to make sure we had all the supplies and everything that we needed. And I would also have to order parts. It was an HVAC company, and I would have to do the ordering of the parts, which I thought was kind of weird. Anyway, the dispatcher just dispatched. That's all she did, was sit there and dispatch. And after a flurry in the morning, there's not really a whole lot to do for the rest of the day. Why couldn't they be ordering parts? I don't know. Anyway, that's another story for another day. Anyway, I stayed there until 2015. I finally had enough and I quit. I found another job within a couple of weeks. It was boring, very boring, not enough to do. He didn't even want me doing anything unless he was there, so I would just sit there all day waiting for him to come back. And then we'd finally sit down and go over the bills and figure out what to pay. I stayed there a couple of years. And then I left and moved to be closer to my aunt, who was like 80, 81 at the time. And got a camper, because I couldn't really find a place that I could rent over there with a dog, because I had a dog. I have another dog now. My last dog passed away last year. He was a good boy. His name was Milo. He was 13. And so anyway, I tried to sell insurance. I used to sell insurance for almost 20 years, back until 2000 or so. And I was a CSR at some places too. That didn't go well. Well, you don't have any contacts, you don't have any people in companies you can really talk to that you know. You don't have any ends anywhere with companies or clients. So that didn't go well. After a few months, I found a real job, but that didn't go too good either. I had looked and looked to find the job. It was supposed to be in Anniston. I was living in Alpine Bay, which is near Pell City, which is about an hour drive, not a bad drive. And for the first couple of weeks, I was supposed to train in Bessemer, which is not a good drive, and also about an hour, maybe a little bit more. And after 2 weeks, I had to stay because the girl that was training me's mother got ill. And so she was taking time off to be with her mother. Her mother did pass away. So it's good I was there. At least I could do the best I could with the little training I had. I finally got moved over to Anniston, and after a while it became evident that they were going to want me to work 24 hours and answer the phone the way that this poor girl was in Bessemer. And that's not what I signed on for. My boss asked me the day he interviewed me, this is an 8 to 5 job, is that what you're looking for? And I said, yes, sir, it is. I didn't want any extra responsibilities or whatever. And also, I didn't get that great a phone reception out on the lake. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. So that wasn't going to work. So I started looking for another job. And then they laid me off. In the meantime, while I was there, my mother got sick and passed away. She had been ill, but we didn't really know about it. My parents didn't tell my brother and I until it was very evident that she was ill. And they did keep me on at least when I went through that, so that was good. They didn't fire me right in the middle of that. But I left there and I found another job in town in Pell City, which was like 20 minutes from where I lived, so that was great. And I worked there for a couple of years, and then my aunt got sick and I was taking care of her and trying to work. I finally found a sitting company to come stay with her after she was put on hospice. I had to get somebody. It was evident I couldn't take care of her full time and work. I had to be there with her all the time. So when she passed away, I volunteered to go back to 32 hours. It was just during the COVID. She passed away in January 21. And that would help the company. I really was had my job going by then. I had to clean up the books from 2 years of mismanagement. And so I had it clicking, you know, it's doing good. Everything's great. So I volunteered to go back to 4 days a week. We were already doing like 4.5, but I was working 4 9s and a 4, I think is the way we did that. So I went back to just 4 8s. And when I got back, I took 3 days, which was actually 1 day, which actually wasn't even 1 day because we only worked part days on Friday, and I wasn't working at all on Friday. I took Thursday though. And I did come in though and make sure everything was set up, everything was okay, and everything was done before I left town. I went to the beach for 3 nights, came back Monday, and he laid me off. So there went that job. I just decided to heck with getting a job. And I bought some land up on the mountain in Mentone, and I built a house. And you know what? Houses cost a lot more to build than they did 10 or 15 years before. There was a little time when I was a plumber and a builder, so I knew what it cost, and it cost a lot more, especially in 2021. Lumber was crazy. So I said, well, I'll just stay here a while and I'll sell it. And I did, and I made some money on it, and that was good. It made up for me not working. And I decided to move back to Tuscaloosa to be closer to my son and my granddog. And she died the day before we moved back. I did come down here to be with her, and we took her to the vet. She had started having seizures that weekend. And so the next day I went back, closed on that property, came down here, bought another property, and 5 months later or so, 5 or 6 months later, my son takes a job with a traveling company. He's a hospital worker, he's an x-ray tech. So he and his wife are in Chicago right now. And I'm at his place. I finally just sold my house. I said, well, I need something to live on. So I sold my house to get the equity I had in it out of it. And here I am, trying to figure out what to do. I have had a job in the meantime. I did get a job last year. And actually it was 24. April of 2024, I think it was. I hired on with a company, and I couldn't. It was making me physically ill. He screamed and yelled at people all the time. Not me, usually. 3 times. The 3rd time is the day I turned in my notice. And I might go into detail about that another time. That was a heck of a job. I was physically ill. My blood pressure was up. I put on 20 pounds. I was way overweight. just stress eating, you know, snacking there at work. We had crackers and Cokes and things that I don't normally eat, and I was just stress eating. My blood pressure was high. Had terrible acid reflux issues with that. Stressed out. I was taking an anti-anxiety pill just to try to get through the day, which kept me kind of zoned out a little bit, but also kept me from losing my temper, so that's good. But I quit. I finally had enough, and I turned in my notice, and worked out well. He had me work another week, enough time to pass it over to the outside. We had 2 bookkeepers. I was in the office, but he had an outside bookkeeping company that did the balancing of the checkbook and the balancing the books and doing the financial reports for him. And we had a payroll company that did the payroll. So I really was just a glorified data entry clerk. It was stressful and boring at the same time. So I just gave up. I have interviewed with a couple of places, but you know, nothing. You know, you don't get many bites when you're 60. And I get that. There's plenty of younger people out there that have more energy and don't have as much attitude as we get when we're a little older. I've been working for over 40 years, and I'm not, you know, I don't have it in me anymore to cow down and whatever. And things you have to do when you're younger. You have a family that depends on you. And I don't know, but I just can't find a job, and I've just pretty much decided I'm useless for this world. And that's just the way it is, and that's fine. I got my own things I can go figure out how to do. So y'all tell me what you think about being older, about finding a job, about what are you going to do about an income, and how we're going to make it through this. I don't know. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Y'all have a good day. Bye.